Murder and violence. Violence was an integral part of the Chicago gang's modus operandi. The gang employed ruthless enforcers, such as Frank Nitti and Jack McGurn, to carry out assassinations and intimidate rivals and uncooperative individuals. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, where 7 members of the rival North Side gang were brutally murdered, exemplified the gang's willingness to use extreme violence to consolidate power. These violent acts not only eliminated competition, but also served as a warning to others who might challenge the gang's authority. The Life Story of the Chicago Gang, USA Introduction. The Chicago Gang, often associated with notorious figures such as Al Capone, emerged as one of the most powerful and infamous criminal organizations in the United States. Rooted in the tumultuous Prohibition era, the gang evolved through various phases, from illegal alcohol distribution to a diversified portfolio of criminal activities, including extortion, swindling, illegal gambling, and murder. This comprehensive narrative delves into the history, rise, operations, and eventual decline of the Chicago gang, shedding light on its enduring impact on American society and the criminal underworld. Early beginnings and the Prohibition era. Origins of the gang. The origins of the Chicago gang can be traced back to the early 20th century, when various immigrant groups, particularly Italian and Irish, settled in Chicago. These communities faced economic hardships and social marginalization, leading some individuals to seek alternative means of livelihood through organized crime. The gang initially comprised small-time hoodlums and street thugs who engaged in petty crimes and local extortion. Rise to power. The enactment of the Volstead Act in 1919, which prohibited the manufacture, sale, and distribution of alcoholic beverages, created a lucrative black market for bootlegging. The Chicago gang, under the leadership of Johnny Torrio and later Al Capone, seized this opportunity to establish a vast network for the illegal production and distribution of alcohol. The gang's sophisticated operations and brutal enforcement tactics allowed them to dominate the Chicago underworld, amassing immense wealth and influence. The Capone-era Al Capone, also known as Scarface, became the most iconic figure associated with the Chicago gang. Capone's rise to power was marked by his strategic use of violence and corruption to eliminate rivals and secure political protection. Under his leadership, the gang expanded its operations beyond bootlegging to include extortion, prostitution, gambling, and other illicit activities. Capone's charisma and notoriety made him a media sensation, further cementing the gang's fearsome reputation. Operations and criminal activities. Extortion became one of the primary revenue streams for the Chicago gang. Businesses, particularly those in the entertainment and hospitality sectors, were coerced into paying protection money in exchange for safety from violence and vandalism. Failure to comply often resulted in brutal reprisals, including arson, assaults, and even murder. The gang's control over local labor unions also facilitated their extortion rackets, as they could manipulate strikes and work stoppages to their advantage. Swindling. The Chicago gang engaged in various swindling schemes, exploiting the greed and gullibility of their victims. One of the most infamous swindles was the Black Hand extortion racket, where letters demanding money were sent to wealthy individuals and businessmen, threatening harm if the demands were not met. Other schemes included fraudulent investment opportunities, rigged card games, and counterfeit money operations. These activities not only enriched the gang, but also undermined public trust in financial institutions and law enforcement. Illegal gambling. Illegal gambling operations were a cornerstone of the Chicago gang's criminal empire. They established and controlled numerous gambling dens, speakeasies, and underground casinos throughout the city. These establishments offered various forms of gambling, including poker, roulette, and horse racing. The gang also operated numbers games, an illegal lottery that attracted a wide range of participants. The revenue generated from gambling not only funded the gang's operations, but also facilitated their bribery of police officers and politicians to ensure protection from law enforcement. Murder and violence. Violence was an integral part of the Chicago gang's modus operandi. The gang employed ruthless enforcers such as Frank Nitti and Jack McGurn to carry out assassinations and intimidate rivals and uncooperative individuals. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, where 7 members of the rival North Side gang were brutally murdered, exemplified the gang's willingness to use extreme violence to consolidate power. These violent acts not only eliminated competition, but also served as a warning to others who might challenge the gang's authority. Key figures and internal dynamics. Johnny Torrio, also known as the Fox, was the mentor and predecessor of Al Capone. Torrio's strategic mind and business acumen laid the foundation for the Chicago gang's operations. He established alliances with other criminal organizations and implemented a structured hierarchy within the gang. Torrio's decision to retire and hand over the reins to Capone in 1925 marked a significant transition in the gang's leadership. Al Capone. Al Capone's tenure as the leader of the Chicago gang was marked by unprecedented levels of wealth, power, and notoriety. Capone's charisma and media savvy helped him cultivate a larger-than-life image, even as he orchestrated violent and criminal activities. Despite his eventual conviction for tax evasion in 1931, Capone's influence on the gang and organized crime in America was profound and enduring. Frank Nitti, known as the Enforcer, succeeded Capone as the head of the Chicago gang. Nitti's tenure was characterized by a focus on labor racketeering and expanding the gang's influence in Hollywood. Despite facing legal challenges and internal dissent, Nitti maintained the gang's operations until his death in 1943. His leadership underscored the gang's ability to adapt and diversify its criminal activities. Decline and legacy law enforcement crackdown. The decline of the Chicago gang began in the 1930s as law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts to dismantle organized crime. The establishment of the Bureau of Prohibition, led by Eliot Ness and his Untouchables, targeted the gang's bootlegging operations and financial networks. High-profile convictions, including that of Al Capone for tax evasion, dealt significant blows to the gang's leadership and operational capabilities. Changing criminal landscape. The repeal of Prohibition in 1933 marked a turning point in the gang's fortunes. With the loss of their primary revenue source, the gang struggled to maintain its dominance. Additionally, the emergence of new criminal organizations and shifting alliances within the underworld further eroded the gang's influence. Despite attempts to adapt by diversifying their activities, the Chicago gang faced increasing competition and internal conflicts. Enduring impact. While the Chicago gang's power waned over time, its legacy continued to shape organized crime in America. The gang's methods of violence, corruption, and intimidation became templates for other criminal organizations. The romanticized image of gangsters in popular culture, epitomized by figures like Al Capone, left an indelible mark on the American imagination. Moreover, the gang's involvement in various illicit enterprises highlighted the complex interplay between crime, politics, and society. Conclusion. The life story of the Chicago gang is a testament to the intricate web of criminal activities, violence, and corruption that characterized organized crime in the early 20th century. From its humble beginnings to its zenith under Al Capone, the gang's rise and fall illustrate the volatile nature of criminal enterprises. Despite its eventual decline, the Chicago gang's legacy endures, serving as a reminder of the enduring allure and dangers of organized crime in American history.